What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be the next album review and my long awaiting return into the discography from one of the mighty names of the Big Four of Megadeth. I know it has been really way too long since I last reviewed their last album, but I decided to come back to the band's discography and review each album, hopefully to get everything done before the release of the new album, whenever that happens. And with that being said, I'm going to go into the band's 6th studio album entitled Euthanasia. So this was released to Capitol Records, released on the 1st of November 1994, and this is the follow-up to 1992's Countdown to Extinction. So when Countdown to Extinction was released, by that time the Megadeth name has been immensely popular and the attention for the band, which makes Megadeth a household name. Even though that Rust in Peace has been known for its critical positive reception, but Countdown to Extinction was the record that boosts everything up the map. And this was at a time when Metallica had released one of the most game-changing, celebrate one of the biggest selling albums of all time in their career, of the self-titled, known as to the world, the Black Album. But I think with Euthanasia, I think that this album is a separate identity to what Countdown to Extinction was. Even though that Countdown to Extinction is extremely popular, memorable, and as heavily successful as Rust in Peace. But for me, sometimes I find Euthanasia to summarize things in a different but a new direction for versatility. There is some differences into the sound of the band, the songwriting, and for versatility on Dave Mustaine as the main singer-songwriter for the band. And when this album came out, loads of people had targeted it and criticized it, saying, is this a rock album? Is this a thrash metal album? Is this a heavy metal album? To Mustaine eventually said, this is a Megadeth album. Which I don't blame him for that, because, you know, Countdown to Extinction is different to Rust in Peace. And as with Euthanasia, I have loved a lot of the majority of the sound to the tracks to this album. And it makes me think, I find Euthanasia to be one of the best albums, top 5 albums in the Megadeth discography. And this is going to be embarrassing for me to say this. When I had reviewed Super Collider, I did say at that time that Euthanasia wasn't that great of an album. And after coming back to the album and thinking of that differently, I question myself, what the fuck was I thinking? Because I think Euthanasia does have some of my greatest favourite Megadeth tracks, and there's a lot of things to go into along the way, so let's jump right into this. The first opening song of Reckoning Day is an absolute classic. I love this track. It begins on the few set of angry chords that sound fearsome with the hi-hat bass drum rhythm to get the anticipation going. The song then gets very catchy. I love how tight it is. The oomph is all here. It has so much delivery onto the memorable structure and the exquisite guitar solo from Marty Friedman. No introduction needed for me, because this has always been one of my top 5 favourite Megadeth opening songs of all time, and this track is always an absolute banger. The next track, Train of Consequences. Lyrically, when Mustaine wrote these, it's about the addiction and the consequence onto gambling. But the music on this track is another great part. It's just one of the best tracks on the album. The first single to promote Euthanasia. But this is at points melodic on Mustaine's vocals. I really like how progressing Mustaine became to be as a vocalist. It's fantastic, especially on the brilliant chorus. Another one of the standout tracks on this record. The next track, Addicted to Chaos. Even though that they decided to take things down, but it starts things greatly on the awesome drum introduction, but this is more or less on a mid-tempo direction of sound. I really like this track so much because I find it to be as a stomping beat from the way the rhythms being planned out and performed. Catchiness is still here for this track, as well as to follow up the first two tracks brilliantly. I think this is another great track from the start to the finish. Etude Lamont. This is a very dark song, and I think that this is as expressive as any Megadeth ballad can really get. Loads of people say that this is like a pro-suicide song, but obviously Mustaine denied that and says basically what the song is, it's about to the people that love him, loves what he does, and he loves them back for all eternity until it's his time to go. The introduction onto the acoustic guitars sound beautiful and pristine on the production, but I think that this is the most atmospheric track, with another excellent chorus and a great selection of riffs to guitar solos. Dave Mustaine's vocals on this track were fantastic as well. And speaking of the melody on the vocals for Mustaine, one of the later tracks of I Thought I Know It All is another gem. Euthanasia, in my opinion, does have hidden classics, and this track is a perfect example because Dave's singing was wonderful, and I like the idea of having multi-tracked guitar sounds from the rhythm section to the guitar playing from Marty Friedman. But not only that, the harmonies of the vocal performances on Mustaine's voice adds things up a notch. To other tracks that continue that faster speed and adrenaline, like The Killing Road. This track is, to me, another dark number, especially with the bridge section where they cleverly decide to descend the tone because the sound is heavy onto that part. And even when the guitar solo comes to life and awesome passion that this track delivers onto the instrumentation is awesome. And speaking of other brilliances of heavy tracks, the title track of Euthanasia. This type of song has a vibe, the essence of how traditional sounding onto this style of songwriting. I think Euthanasia is one of the other incredible tracks on the punches and the hooks once again, and also onto the immediate faster tempo change on one of the later parts of the track adds things so much better. And also onto Family Tree. This is the one song that I cannot get the chorus out of my head. I love this track so much. This is where, again, like some of the earlier tracks, the catchiness is memorable. And that's what Euthanasia does so well. There are tracks earlier and later that are memorable and worth addicting to. And Family Tree is one of the songs that you hear David's bass work so fluently. And another really great chorus, the harmonies, just an all-around underrated classic into the repertoire for Megadeth. But what really shines on the most on this album, in my opinion, is the musicianship. This is a very tight, focused, and a direct contact of hearing each other from start to finish, getting things as perfect as possible. As Mustaine did say, that this is a very band-focused album, but also this is the best Megadeth album for Mustaine's vocals. And yes, I do like the tone of his gnarly sound and cleans on the earlier albums, but I think Euthanasia does define Mustaine as a singer. It is emotional, it's personal, and it's such a great connection. And also Marty Friedman's guitar solos. They are explosive, colourful, and exciting, and as well of the production value done by Max Norman. And I think that this style of production is a great combination. The guitar's distortions sound fat and big, as well as the drums. And we're talking about the original production here. The original production is excellent. It was just a richer and best ever sound than to hear the remix and remastered version onto this album. In terms of some of the other tracks go, I'm not a big fan on the track of Blood of Heroes, but don't get me wrong, this song is very, very good, but I just don't think that it was a bigger connection like on the tracks previously and later on. And also Victory is another great song to finalize things, the final song on the album. And what Mustaine did lyrically mentions the references onto track names to album names on the previous records. Basically, Mustaine is saying, this is what I've done from the past, and look where I'm at today. I'm still at it. The attitude is very presentable, and I like taking an interaction of turns between guitar solos from Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman, and the energy to the track is non-stop. It's top-notch onto ending the album very, very well, as much as the opener of Reckoning Day. Euthanasia by Megadeth, fantastic all around from start to finish. And there was a point in time for me that even though that Countdown to Extinction is great, I would have selected and preferred to listen to Euthanasia over Countdown to Extinction. And I know that may differ some people's opinions, but needless to say, Euthanasia is still as an amazing record for what it is. And I am interested to know what you think of this album in the comments down below. I'm going to give Euthanasia by Megadeth a 9 out of 10. And I'm going to continue the journey to Megadeth along the ways and review the next album of Cryptic Writings. So I'll do that very, very soon. I'll get onto that album later in the week, as I've got other videos to do for the channel. But I will be promising myself to dig into Megadeth deeper than before once again. And I am glad to discover Megadeth into this time of year and finish off the discography as soon as I can. All of that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.